Where to start? Well, in 25 words or less, how did you get started in doing the kind of work you do now? You can have 27 words actually, but a little kind
Yeah.
of overview of your work and the kind of things you do.
Well, it came. It was easy. This was toward the end of 1972. I was the general counsel of the Environmental Protection Administration of the city of New York, and I felt as though that sort of uh, uh, classical time space reality was not working. And I had begun exploring in the multidimensional field.
Hmm.
And John Lindsay decided to run for mayor. He was my ultimate boss. And Jerome Krishna, the head of the EPA, ran for mayor. And so I decided I met a professor of experimental psychology at Rutgers who had been an ET contactee. And I met him on January 7th, 1973. And on early February 1973, I was just telling our friends I had my first multidimensional experience where I
Hmm.
was brought up into a spacecraft.
Wow.
And I said, oh my God, and this is from being a government lawyer. And so I
Yeah.
just cast aside and I said, I'm going into the multidimensional world. And from there, I went forward, and 6 months later, I had written the book Exopolitics. Now, I should say that there's a time travel element to it, and that is that the DARPA CIA secret time travel unit in 1971 had met with me under false pretenses, 50 of them. They had time traveled my book, Exopolitics, from 2005 when it was published back to 1971, because they
Oh,
wanted
wow.
to see what I looked like, because they knew that from 2000 forward, I would be doing all of this disclosure. So
Oh,
I've
interesting.
been living kind of a multidimensional life ever since then. So
Hmm.
it was between sort of what I call the chronarchy, the time travel uh, secret government, and whatever interdimensionals. I think they're the regional galactic governance council, the Pleiadians, the Alpha Centaurians, the Sirians, and others. And between those two, I've sort of been, doing exopolitics. And now in 2003, as I mentioned, we now have launched a learning platform for Earth, for multi-dimensional knowledge, to try and ground all of this.
Hmm.
Because the matrix here can't make up its mind whether it wants to blow up the planet or have a war or have a genocide, or
Or they might even
I
want to change their sex for that matter. Who knows?
yeah,
I mean, hard to
exactly.
tell.
Yeah. So they're off on their trip, but we're serious about having a learning platform in exopolitics, exosciences, PsiSciences, and spiritual sciences.
Mhm.
And we call it Omniversity. And after the
Versus
Omniverse,
university.
yeah, which is
Versus,
after universes.
okay, universe connotates or denotates one universe, right? One reality.
Right.
Multiverse don't denotates different different realities. Is that
Well,
right? Yeah.
yeah, the universe is a singularity of time, energy, space, and matter,
Mhm.
and that was discovered around 3500 BC by the Sumerian astronomers. And then in 1895, the American psychologist William James coined the term multiverse to mean the sum of all the universes. And two Stanford scientists have estimated that the number of universes now is humongous that
Well,
we know.
well,
And it is so, that number is so large that
uh-huh.
if we wrote that we don't have a name for it, but if we wrote that number out in 12-point type or by hand, that number would be more than 260 million miles long. That's how many universes there are, and we're in
Oh my
only one.
God. Oh my
Now,
goodness.
there's yet another cosmological body called the Omniverse. And that is the one that myself and several other individuals, we converged, and in separate parts of the world, we published books in 2014, each co-discovering the Omniverse.
Wow.
And what the Omniverse is, it's like the Einstein equation. The Omniverse equation is Omniverse equals multiverse. In other words, the sum of all the universes plus
Mhm.
the spiritual dimensions. And the spiritual dimensions equals the intelligent civilization of souls in the afterlife, the
Mhm.
spiritual beings plus source, or what people call God.
Mhm.
And so uh, uh, you might say, so we then, rather, universities are chartered to study universes through that old canon of science, you know,
Mhm.
and it's that 19th century canon of science where they don't, oh, we don't recognize the afterlife. Oh, we don't recognize psychic capacity. Oh, we
Oh,
don't
really?
recognize the soul, you know.
Oh, interesting.
So
Yeah. Okay.
why an omniversity? Omniversities are chartered to share the knowledge of our multidimensional reality and
Mhm.
sciences.
Mhm.
And universities are gatekeeping this new knowledge.
Mhm.
Universities are chartered to study the establishment sciences of time, energy, space, and matter. And universities gatekeep the scientific study of the spiritual dimensions of the omniverse, such as the soul, life after death, the interlife, spirit, reincarnation, spiritual beings, and source or God, which are not matters of faith, they're matters of science. That's the science
Mhm.
of the omniverse.
Mhm.
And exosciences such as quantum access, teleportation, time travel, PsiSciences such as the study of psi, extrasensory perception, telekinesis, and
Mhm.
telepathy. And all of those are forces. I mean, when a soul comes to incarnate in a body, it 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 teleports from the spiritual dimension in a typical case, and we know this from the science, and this is what I talk about in my 3 books on the Omniverse. In the typical case, a soul, about half of the soul, because the soul remains anchored in the spiritual dimension, and it can simultaneously be leading about 3 or 4 different incarnated lives in different material planes.
Really interesting.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Fascinating. Yeah.
yeah, in different exophenotypes. We can be, you know, a bird being and a human being and other beings, because universes are machines for soul development.
Right.
And so
Interesting.
say
Huh.
if we're doing a human incarnation on Earth,
Right.
uh, uh, about 3 months prior to 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 uh, about 3 months after the fetus starts maturing, you know, is born,
Mhm.
the soul would come through an interdimensional portal and would come up right next to the womb of the mother, and then would interface into the fetus. And it's after 3 months that the fetus acquires the soul. And this is
Interesting.
this we know from a lot of Omniverse science, and this is the Omniverse science that we share and teach at Omniversity with various textbooks and faculty members and things like that. So if you go through the course catalog at Omniversity, you'll have courses in exopolitics, ExoSciences,
Wow, cool.
PsiSciences, spiritual sciences. In the Department of Spiritual Sciences, Laura Eisenhower is teaching a course on the divine feminine. I've got a couple of courses on the science of the Omniverse, which is the integration of spirituality and science, the afterlife, souls, spirit, and source, the universe and the Omniverse, both in English and in Spanish. I also do one on the exopolitics and a positive future. We have one of the experts on the history of exopolitics do one on the German flying saucer mystery. You know, prior to World War II,
Sure,
the Germans had a lot of flying saucers. They supposedly established even a base on Mars. So there's a lot of stuff there.
Alfred, I'd love to teach a class if you like, if there's room.
You know, you took the words out of my mouth. I didn't want to be presumptuous, but I wanted to issue an invitation to you to be a faculty member.
Oh, I'd love to.
Really?
I would love to.
Oh,
that would be a lot of fun.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be great because yeah. And
I used to teach for 30 years on and off at different universities and community colleges in sociology and law and other subjects, and I'd love it. I love teaching, so it'd be fun.
Good. Well, you know, one of the things that we've done with Omniversity, you know, it's a virtual platform, so people access it, and each class, let's say that you would pre-record a class of about 60 minutes, and then the students would come and access it. We already have 500 students who are enrolled in Omniversity. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Yeah,
and the registration is free at Omniversity, so people just go to Omniversity.info and they register free.
Wow.
And then what we've done is that we make the cost of each class, because now in some countries in the world, like Germany, which are enlightened, they've made higher education, university education, free for the citizens. But in the West, here in North America, they're still mortgaging students their entire life.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's awful. So we're not doing that. And what it is that the cost of each class, and right now there are 30 plus classes that are available, we're just getting started, is about the cost of a latte at Starbucks. So it's essentially $5.
Oh, that's
so
great.
You go in and you put in your $5, and you get it, and then that goes in, and Stripe, you know, there's a company named Stripe, and they're expert.
Yeah.
At the end of the month, and then we share it with the faculty member. But with the large number of students and everything, so the faculty member months after months gets all those collected things, and we share it 50-50 with the faculty.
Oh, that sounds.
And then Omniversity has the other half, and its responsibility is to market this. So that works well. But let me share some of the classes that we have, which are introductory classes in the Department of ExoSciences. And here we have actual US chrononauts, time travelers like Andrew Bashago.
Oh yeah.
Okay. A
Yeah.
brief history of time travel, part 1 and part 2. These are from whistleblowers from the secret time travel program.
Wow. Cool.
We have
Wow.
we have a number, 2 or 3 Mars explorers, US Mars explorers who have been on Mars. We have
Fascinating.
they're teaching 5 classes on the CIA Mars jump room. And five classes on what it's been like to be on Mars. I mean, for $25, I mean, 5 classes and 5 each. You're not going to get any university to give you that, right? And
in the States, tuition's high,
Yeah, I mean, this is like extraordinary. And we have Department of PsiSciences, energy healing at a distance. We have Susan Gordon here in Canada, who is extraordinary. She speaks to animals, the fine art of animal communication.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. And then we have the Chronography series. This is the secret time travel government. We just put out this book on the chronography, which is the secret time travel government. And this is all evidence. And understanding the chronography, top secret time travel government. So we teach the chronography time travel. And then we have at Omniversity.us, Omniversity faculty books and publications. So all faculty, if they have books, we have a course catalog with all the links, and then we have a book catalog if faculty want to put their books, like if you could assign. I know that you just published books, so that you can assign, say, for your classes, you can assign a certain book for your classes or some of your books. So this then works. And then you can create as many classes as you wish around all of your books. And then these are as many students as you want. We have over almost 9,000 on our mailing list for Omniversity. So this is extraordinary. Now, let me tell you one more thing. Students can earn an Omniversity certificate in Omniverse science. And what they can do is they can earn an Omniversity certificate in Omniverse science by 1, registering in and showing proof of completing all available courses, all the classes at Omniversity.info, which is not a big deal. I mean, what's 30 classes at $5 each? That's a lot of time. They're going to learn a lot, but that's $150. It's not $150,000, which is what it takes to go to Harvard. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
And then they would complete a written or an audio-visual, i.e. video, Omniverse science thesis in coordination with an Omniverse faculty advisor. You would be a faculty advisor. I'm a faculty advisor. So that the students could either choose to do a written Omniverse science thesis. These days, people like to do video. So if they want to do a video thesis, they would do it, in conjunction with a faculty person. Then they would have, it's like a movie that they would have in their resume. We are creating. This is creating the new institutions for the new earth. So there you have
Fantastic.
Omniversity.
Fantastic.
People can just go to Omniversity.info and it's all there. It's
Wow.
all there. The new Earth is here. The new Earth is here.
Yeah.
Anybody who wants to waste their time on the matrix, whatever, of war, disease, crime, and poverty, they can do that. But we have the new world infrastructure. We have Omniversity.info, and it's all there. Ted, thank you very much for letting us share this with you in the year of the water rabbit.
Oh, well, that sounds great. That sounds great. I'm so glad you're doing that. I've heard about your university activities before, and I'd love to join you. We'll talk about details.
Yeah. And it's a great privilege to have you as a faculty member, because you have lectured at the early stages of Exo University. You came to our facilities there in Vancouver, Canada, and you lectured, and we remember that very, very well. Well, what we've done is we've gone virtual now, and we can facilitate it so that you would be able to do your hour lectures. We have a very fine webmaster who then would put your classes online. We have a very fine platform, and this is going to be, you would have title your lectures, you would describe it, you could just plan everything out. You would say, well, these are the textbooks I want to go. Just like in the old world, the universities that were enmeshed in time, energy, space, and matter, we're leaving that behind. We're going into the Omniverse.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad you're doing that. Have you been endorsed by the World Economic Forum, Alfred?
Those are people who
that's a joke. Sorry.
We actually have sued. Changing hats. I'm a judge on the Natural and Common Law Tribunal for Public Health and Justice.
Great.
And we actually have sued the world. They are one of the defendants that we have sued for all sorts of things that they have done.
I'm sure they know about
against natural law, but
wow.
No one is beyond redemption, and if people are sincere and they want to transform, and I'm not going, but can the leopard change their spots, and can those 10,000 reptilian souls that are oppressing us really transform? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's a free will planet, but they come from a species where there's no free will. So for them, it must be a learning experience for them to be here, I guess. I don't know. But one of the topics during my last interview just a few minutes ago, my friend, was that I'd received a message some time ago that when we're all said and done and we get through this transition period, I look at this transition period to a better planet, that the negatives and the positive will learn to get along together, and that'll be a model for the rest of the universe on how other species could live together.
That's the first time that I've heard that, and that's very interesting.
Yeah, I have heard that years ago.
Yeah.
So
that's the first time that I've. Of course, you have different levels in humanity, because you have sort of that sort of 10,000 or to a million sort of control factor that are controlling, at the governmental, military, financial, religion area. And then you have sort of the souls that are hypnotized and go along with them, sort of the camp followers. So maybe it's a gradual process of consciousness expansion and enlightenment, where the souls that are denser become more and more enlightened, and so that there is a there's a thing. What I had a very here Dr. Courtney Brown, who wrote an introduction to my book.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, great guy.
And he's the director of the Farsight Institute.
That's right.
And they do remote viewing. And
Right.
one of the methodologies that we did in this early book on exopolitics was remote viewing. And a few months ago, the Farsight Institute did a remote viewing on Vladimir Putin's inner circle, because it was it was right after the Russia invaded Ukraine, because it was so like off the wall. And what they discovered from a remote viewing point of view is that Vladimir Putin and his inner circle at an interdimensional level are surrounded and highly influenced by interdimensional Draco reptilians that are the ones that have them under the sway and have them, that push them into the Ukraine, and they're pushing them, the former President Medvedev of Russia, who's every other day he gets up and says, "There's going to be nuclear war," I mean, these sort of off the wall things.
Right. What about the Ukrainian Zelensky? He must have his own demons surrounding him too. Don't know much about him, but
I've studied him very carefully. He comes from show business, and I've studied him very carefully, and it isn't the same. If he has a reptilian soul, it may be a lizard soul, not a Draco, which is less. I'm not sure. I'm hearing other voices.
Yeah, Don, somebody's going in. Could you cut out the volume, please, my friend? Thank you. Anyway, go ahead, Alfred.
Okay. I studied the biography of Zelensky, and the guy is highly creative. Is very, very creative. And he's up against the Dracos, and I think he's doing a brilliant job. Now, we'll see.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Well, have you gotten a lot of support for your work there? Have you been harassed at all for your because you go into areas nobody goes. It's like Star Trek.
I have been so targeted, and so harassed, and so the focus of directed energy weapons. But I think I've broken through. I think I've broken through to the other side, and it's like, okay, enough already. I'm on the other side. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I was first hit with directed energy weapons.
Okay.
When well, first of all, in February of 1973, when I went up into the multidimensional experience and up into the ET experience, those ETs, it was simultaneously myself, Andrew DiBisciago, and Jimmy Carter, all three of us. And because Jimmy Carter is an ET contactee and adoptee. And that was two things. Number one, it was to coordinate my being the director of the Jimmy Carter extraterrestrial communication study, which occurred during the first year of his presidency. And secondly, it was to help coordinate his run for and win for the White House.
Sure.
And the way that occurred on the ground, I was in New York at the time, and Congressman Henry B. Gonzalez had contacted me and asked me to help him coordinate and get started the House Select Committee on Assassinations to investigate the assassinations of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this was something, because Jimmy Carter and John F. Kennedy were half brothers.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. You
Okay.
see, what happened is that Jimmy Carter's mother was Joseph Kennedy's secretary, and she became pregnant. And so Joe Kennedy sent her back to Georgia, and then Jimmy Carter was born.
Oh, I see. That's it. I really?
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
no idea.
But
I had no idea.
But they were half brothers. So I was there in New York, and Jimmy Carter sent an emissary to me after he was elected president, and who invited me for lunch at the Carlisle Hotel, and said, look, and they knew that I was a consultant to Representative Henry B. Gonzalez, chairman of the House Select Committee in the Congress. He was also chairman of the House Banking Committee. He said, Alfred, Jimmy Carter is very interested in the House Select Committee assassinations. That was because of the JFK thing, and so we're going to be following it.
Right.
And then he invited me down to Washington in the transition period. There's a period between the election and January, sort of from November to January, like December, where you have an incoming president. So around December or so of 1976, I went down to Washington. We went to a house on Capitol Hill, and I went in there, and it was Carter's Inner Circle. And it's fascinating because Jimmy Carter, JC, they call themselves JC and the 12 Apostles. But Jimmy Carter and I had been up on the ships together. All this is set out in my books. You see, I've documented this in my book, My Journey Landing Heaven on Earth.
Oh yeah, right.
And in so that it's all documented, all of the documentation of the ETs and all of that. It's not that I'm making it up now. I have a physical witness like Andrew Bashago, a lawyer, saying that, yes, I saw him on the ship. And the ETs put Andy on the ship so that I would have a physical witness there.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. So and this is all highly designed that way. So anyway, there I am, and they invited me down, and it was JC and the 12 Apostles. Jimmy Carter was not there that night, but all his inner circle was, and they said, well, you're going to work for Peanut? Because they called Jimmy Carter Peanut. He was a peanut farmer. And at that time, in that moment, I got the flash to start the Jimmy Carter White House extraterrestrial communication project.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which probably I had gotten on the ship. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Prior to the election. So then I came down, and a friend of mine took me down to the Bowery and introduced me to one of the chief participants in the remote viewing experiments that Russ Targ and Dr. Hal Puthoff were carrying out at Stanford Research Institute. This is a guy in New York. And he said, well, go see, and I had to go back to the Bay Area for family over Christmas. So I went to the Bay Area and I called up Russ Targ and Hal Puthoff at Stanford Research Institute. And I went there and I said, look, I've got this great idea to start an extraterrestrial communication project with the Carter White House. I met with Carter's inner circle. And they said, that's a great idea. You should start here at SRI with the Center for the Study of Social Policy, which is Willis Harman. They're the futurists. So they introduced me to Willis Harman. I pitched it to them, and they offered me a job on the spot. So then I joined the Futures Unit, or SRI, with a proposition to do Jimmy Carter's extraterrestrial communication study with SRI as the contractor, right? Now, we started that out, but what happened is that in the US government is mainly controlled by the Draco reptilians, especially the Pentagon is controlled by the Draco reptilians. So once I joined, I'm flying back and forth between Palo Alto and Washington, D.C. And when I get to Washington, D.C., I was sort of set up to meet with an assistant secretary of defense in the Pentagon, which is the reptilians. And then they were contracted to sabotage the Carter White House extraterrestrial communication study. So on the very day that I first met with the White House and got the White House approval for this study, then I went in the afternoon, over to the Pentagon, met with the Assistant Secretary of Defense. As I walked in, I was hit with directed energy weapons, zaps. And when I went to Dulles Airport to fly out, they had men in black there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Guys with instead of tie clips, they had rifles instead of tie clips. I mean, I used my tennis racket in the passenger lounge to kind of, combat them. And I was supposed to fly to New Orleans. I went to New Orleans. I was supposed to meet in New Orleans with the district attorney of New Orleans, who was conducting a parallel investigation on the JFK assassination with Congressman Henry B. Gonzalez. And I was hit with directed energy weapons there again, so I had to call that off.
What did the weapons do to you? Did you feel like you were being punched in the stomach?
It's like if you're taking a whole bunch of LSD or something, you get like, ooh,
Oh, wow.
it sort of makes you, non-functional,
Yeah, right.
Disoriented. And it was to stop the Carter White House extraterrestrial communication study.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and all of this is highly documented. I've got I was Disclosure Project witness with Dr. Stephen Greer. There's an affidavit filed there.
Yeah.
Everything.
Wow.
So that and so that's been kind of my this history of it. And that was my introduction to, quote, real exopolitics.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I've been on the ground fighting the real fight on behalf of the human extraterrestrials versus the Draco reptilians.
Right. Okay. Wow. Wow. What a story.
Yeah.
I had, it's very interesting. You probably know about this, but in mid-April 1979, um, up until that point, President Carter, I actually was a delegate for him from Washington State at the
Amazing.
at the 76th convention in St. Louis. And
Amazing.
yeah, I was there and I liked him. I really did. Flew all the way there and everything. And in so I like him and I followed him over the years.
Yeah.
And I want to run something by you. In April of '79, up until that time, he was interested in ETs, and he's seen a UFO when he was the peanut farmer in Georgia as governor and everything. Very interesting work. But after April, mid-April, Alfred, he went to on a vacation down to Georgia when he was president, and he was down there about 10 days, 2 weeks. I don't remember the time. About mid-April, and when he came back, a couple things happened. He dropped his interest completely about UFOs, and the second thing happened. For 50 or 60 years, he had parted his hair always on the left,
Yeah.
always on the left. And after middle of April '79, he parted it always on the right.
Mm.
And then I heard anecdotal evidence that he had changed, and there was a rumor going around that maybe he was cloned. I don't know, but I had heard that. It's in my book. I backed it up with pictures where you can clearly see it. People usually don't change their hair party within overnight like that, but I wanted to run it by you. I like him. I still like him.
Yeah.
I thought he was a good president, but anyway.
Yeah. No, you see, the Carter who was abducted with me in 1973
Right.
was an advanced human who was abducted with me and with Andy Bashago in the ships was an advanced human.
Okay.
And who sent an emissary to me to New York to meet around with Representative Henry Gonzalez, and then who invited me down to Washington, and then who approved the Carter White House extraterrestrial communication project. This was an official proposal of Stanford Research Institute. We have the National Science Foundation on it.
Wow.
We had Jacques Vallée as a scientist on it. It was an official. It was the first civilian project. It wasn't like the 1973, it wasn't a Pentagon-led project like it happened in 1973,
right,
when they had the Michigan UFO flap and Gerald R. Ford brought in, they said, "Oh, UFOs, well, that's swamp gas." He brought in
disinformation.
Exactly.
Right.
And then what happened is that George H.W. Bush, who is Draco Reptilian Soul, became involved at the CIA level. George H.W. Bush went to Iran, made a deal with Iran to sabotage Carter with the detainees at the U.S. Embassy in order to bring down Carter on his second term. It may have been that Carter, as part of that, it may have been that Carter's soul was targeted as part of that counterattack by by George H.W. Bush in 1979 and 1980.
Makes sense.
So
Makes
this is
sense.
just a hypothesis, but at
Makes
the
sense.
first part that I was involved, I was dealing with a human soul.
Makes total sense. Thank you for filling in the blanks for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you were there. You were there.
yeah.
You experienced everything
Oh,
and
yeah,
went through it. Yeah, I know. Yeah, right. I hadn't realized all these details. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is now what we're going to, we're going to be teaching now. I mean, the universities gatekeep all of this. So at Omniversity, this is what we're teaching. So people, it's time that planet Earth join the rest of Omniverse reality. So I welcome you
Yeah,
to
that's
the
right.
faculty, Ted. I welcome you to the faculty. We'll be in
Thank
touch.
you.
We look forward to your joining us.
Great.
and you're creating educational material. I think that's going to be fantastic. In fact, I've been the last 3 days, I said, because I was going to make the invitation on the air, and it's so wonderful that you came out and just on your own did it.
My angels prompted me to ask, so
Oh,
I
that's
went
so
ahead
great.
and did it. Yeah, I used to teach. I used to teach for about 30 years in
Oh, boy.
a couple of different universities and different community colleges,
Oh, yeah.
and really enjoyed it and kind of miss it now. I don't know what it's like now to teach. Of course, I live in Washington State, where they've, Inslee's nuts. He required all the faculty and students and staff to get the shots, and who knows how many are living now.
Well,
I
no,
don't
you
know.
see, this is going to be, this is a virtual platform.
Yeah, right.
So you're
Good.
going to be, your courses, we will record them on Zoom, and then they are up on Zoom, and then the students will just go on Zoom, and it's a pay-per-view. In other words, they go up to the platform and they choose it there.
That's great.
It's not
Wow.
at all, there's no involvement of any censorship anywhere.
Yeah, right. Well, that's good. That's good, my friend. Well, you're doing fantastic work, and I think you are safe where you are. I'm glad where you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, you are safe. I'm protected by angels and the galactics as the Pleiadians, so I'm safe pretty much where I am here
Thank
too.
you. Yeah, it's that
Yeah, yeah,
that is so
yeah.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
and we come here on this mission. I feel so grateful that, and I'm sure that you feel the same, that we're deployed here on this
Mhm.
mission, because it is a great privilege to come here
It's true.
and teach and to raise the frequency. And people here are very grateful. And I feel that now we're entering a new time where we can bring systematic, multi-dimensional knowledge. This is a new era now.
Right, right. Well, it's I was speaking with Albert Einstein and President Kennedy and George Washington. It was about a year ago or 2
Wow.
years ago, and they said to me that they would love to trade places and be here at
Sure.
this time. And I
Sure.
looked at them and I said, "Really?" I said, "Okay, you want to switch? Okay." No, I have a contract here, so I'm not gonna. I have to be. I look at it as a privilege and an honor to be. There's a lot of souls who wanted to reincarnate to be part of this ascension cycle now, but there weren't enough bodies to go around.
Yeah.
And so, but there's we're getting a lot of attention. Of all the planets in the universe, this is the hardest one to affect any positive change, Alfred. And it's also the most watched planet in the entire universe.
Yeah.
So
you see, this is vital knowledge, I think, vital multidimensional knowledge that you can bring to our student bodies in a systematic way that is going to elevate them and really change lives, and change generations. Because I think that now we're settling down to generational work. And that's what we're doing, because we have won. Basically, we have won.
Right.
And now we're settling down to teach and establish the new generations. And that's the significance of 2023, the year of the water rabbit. That's my kind of feeling.
Wow. It's an amazing time, and an exciting time to be alive too.
Exactly.
A lot of opportunities coming up. There's a lot of negativity, but I look at the negatives on the way out.
Yeah.
Because God is behind us, and the vibrations of the planet are rapidly rising, and there's nothing they can do to change it. You can try to slow it down, but they can't stop it. Not this time.
No, they're in their death rattle.
Right. Yeah. Death rattle. That's funny.
It's true. I mean, you just have to look at the insane things that they're doing. And
yeah. I'm looking at the fake guy. What's his name? Joe. He's not important. Biden, whatever he is. Another 2 months, maybe, if he's lucky. I don't see him going soon.
Well, all of these people were pre-identified and groomed by the Chronarchy, the secret time travel government in 1971 and forward.
Really?
Wow. George H.W. Bush Sr., George W. Bush Jr., Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, otherwise known as Barry Soetoro.
That's right. Yeah.
Even Donald John Trump.
Yeah.
And Joseph Robinette Biden. And Joseph Robinette Biden has, spent his time, being groomed for this time.
Right.
And as did, they were all pre-identified and groomed in 1971. So they all spent their time since then kind of, treading water until this time. Some were, sneakier than others and worse than others, but they're all reptilian souls. Some are lizard souls, but they are puppets of the Chronarchy, which is a secret time travel government. They're not independently elected human souls according to a constitutional process by the informed free will of the electorate.
Right.
So in order to have a truly functioning democracy, you have to have a well-informed electorate, and the electorate in the United States did not know that all of the candidates had been pre-identified by Chronovisor and had been groomed, secretly saying, you're going to be president, and this is what you're going to say, and this is the limits of what you can do. And so, but now the vibration has raised to a level where they have been neutralized. They don't have any more, their powers have been neutralized.
Right.
And so now the human souls, now is the time of the human souls to come out, and the reptilian souls are on auto destruct. The Putins.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. But yet they still try, which is interesting, isn't it?
It's their programming.
I see. Interesting. Do they themselves have any free will? I don't think. Are they this programming controls their movements and what they do. But I guess that's an interesting question, isn't it? Whether they do have any free will.
Well, there's distinctions among them, but and then there's another actor, and the other actor is the invading sentient inorganic artificial intelligence, which is the AI, which is not an exophenotype embodied in an organic type, but is plasma based,
Right.
and that's kind of a separate thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Basically what's at stake is whether this planet will remain as a divine soul incarnation planet, or whether it will, under the transhumanist agenda, shift to being an AI incarnation planet where only robotic souls incarnate, and that's basically what's at stake.
Right.
And so
that's what they've tried to create with the SHOT program too.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Take away people's humanity, get rid of the soul, get rid of the chakra system. We become biological entities.
Exactly.
Have you heard of the Sasani, by the way?
Of what?
They're an interest. They're called the Sasani. Sasani?
Tell me more.
Oh, okay. All right. The Sasani are grays who were at one time human, and in this timeline, another timeline, they lost their souls from the shot, reincarnated as grays, and then wanted to become human again and get back in touch with God. And over the millennia in this Omniverse, they are currently 80% human and 20% grays. They're benevolent. They're members of the Galactic Alliance, and they have an officer exchange program with the Pleiadians. And if you go on board the ship, you'll meet them up there sometime. Wow. And they look like human, except that their skin is paler. They don't have hair, but they're benevolent. I've met with them before.
Interesting.
And they're trying to get back, and eventually they will become 100% human. And the Pleiadians are helping them become human again.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. So they're called the Sasani. I had heard about them a couple of years ago, and then I went on board the ship, Pleiadian mothership last year, and they explained everything to me, and I thought, okay, interesting. So
wow, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I feel very optimistic as of this year.
Yeah, right. I know things are going to get better, and Alfred, we all chose to be here.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. This was a choice, and so that now, in a way, now we're coming into the fullness of our mission. We've sort of been preparing for our mission. Now we're coming into the fullness of our mission.
Well, I've been told, Alfred, that this is the 7th time we've tried to ascend. So there's 6 times before this one.
Wow.
And number 7 is like a completion number. 7 days of the week, 7-year cycle, 7th try for ascension.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
But we're doing it now,
Wow.
Yeah.
You have so much wisdom and information that you can share in a systematic context that I look forward to your,
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Helping you do that and facilitating your doing that.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Well, I've wanted to go back and teach now for the past 10 years or so, but nothing seemed to gel quite right. And then the scamdemic hit, and crazy Inslee wanted everybody to be vaxxed, and I said I don't want to get vaxxed. So, but
well, I'm as it turns out, I'm meeting with our Omniversity webmaster this coming Monday, so I will brief her on on our conversation. So we'll start getting ready, and then
Okay.
you and I can be in contact, and things will just
Okay.
develop under their natural course.
Okay. Okay. Great. I can plan out a couple of courses in my copious free time if you want.
Sure, sure.
Do you want it on a semester basis or a quarter basis?
As you wish. I mean, it's just
Okay.
as you wish.
Okay. All right.
As you wish.
All right. I've been through both systems and universities, and I
Yeah.
prefer the quarter system. You seem to get as much done. If you have a semester system, it's longer. You can
Yeah.
it's fine, it's just longer. But the quarter system,
Yeah,
you have a bit of a choice there.
yeah,
When I went to school at Berkeley, it was quarter
yeah,
system. I preferred the quarter system, but other
yeah,
universities semester. I mean, it's up to
yeah.
them. Yeah.
You could even, you know, and even now we were, in fact, prior to the program, I was just making the plans. Omniversity will be a Washington State nonprofit corporation. And I'd like to invite you to be on the board of directors.
Oh, thank you. I'd love it. I'd love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
could really be of such value in terms of helping design the educational format and bringing all of this experience and knowledge of educational formats and things.
I created one nonprofit for, I got a nonprofit myself, and I created another one for the Emoto Peace Project, which is a Washington State nonprofit as well. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, so it's
Great.
years ago there was almost no regulations, but now they've legislature stepped in. They're not bad. I mean,
Yeah.
no, I mean they're fair regulations. So
Yeah. Well,
they're fair.
we're not in competition with the state education system,
Right.
because this is
Right.
multidimensional knowledge that they don't
Right.
recognize. So
Right.
this could be entertainment value for their,
It could be. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. 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 Well, I think there's certainly demand for that. People
Yeah.
want to learn more, and they want to expand their horizons, and the vibrations are getting a lot higher too now. And
Exactly.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that this is really the time to build the new world in its the fifth, 5D, the fifth world, whatever it is, and build institutions inside these new frequencies, bringing knowledge, bringing
Right.
things that
Right.
make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
I'll be in touch from that point of view too.
Okay.
From
Great.
the organizational point of view.
Alfred, let's say you're out in the street walking around there in beautiful Vancouver, and somebody comes up to you on the street and says, "I saw you on Ted's show, but I'm just one person. How do I make the world a better place?" What would you say to them?
I would say that you are the world,
Mm.
because if you look at the science of the Omniverse, it is a scientific fact that our souls are holographic fragments of Source, of God.
Mhm.
And the principles of holography are that the whole is in each fragment of the whole. So it's hard for us to understand, but the whole of God is in my soul.
Mhm.
The whole of the Creator is in my soul. Holographically, that's a scientific fact. And that's why some spiritual traditions say namaste. I salute the God within you. I salute the God within you. And it's not symbolic. It's not it's not diplomacy. It's I salute the God within you. Edgar Casey says, "Ye are gods in the making." Well, it's even more than that. No, ye are gods. Ye are gods. we holographically, we are holographic fragments of source scientifically, and the
Right.
whole of God is within us. And as each person is conscious of that, the entire community of holograms shifts. The whole thing shifts. And I think that that's part of consciousness expansion now.
Right. I agree. Well, you know, that's what Zora from the Hollow Earth says. We are all gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says that. I think he's right too. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
right.
and that's a scientific fact. That's the science of the Omniverse. And it's not a poetry, it's not diplomacy, it's not symbolic, it's science.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. 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 Do you see ships where you live in Vancouver, or is can you see the sky there? There's too a lot of
Yeah, well, I've got a I've got a let me just
okay.
we've got a clear sky here, maybe a cloud ship, but
Right.
I haven't been, haven't been looking. I mean, I track the UFO things in all the UFO world, but my study has been mainly now more. My focus is on the Omniverse and the dimensional ecology. So I'm more focused on the dimensional ecology and more in touch with the many levels of beingness. In other words, it's not things out there, but it's things in here that are talking to me all the time. I have tremendous conversations. I mean, it's just, I'm walking along, the inner prompts, just hearing this, oh, look over here and look over here. We are in a dimensional ecology. And so being open to that, it's just the amount of knowledge that can come to one is huge. And I guess that's just been my focus, because I've been focused on the Omniversity and on the Omniverse. Others, we have a very active UFO, centers here and active, and I'm sure that they're active in that sense. I'm more on the science of the Omniverse, kind of scholarly type things.
I see.
But also just all the different voices and guides that are talking to me.
Sure. I have a friend in North Vancouver who's told me before. It's been some years now I've been to Vancouver, but up in a place called Grouse Mountain, where there's a lot of UFO activity. Yeah. I've never been there, but I remember hearing about it. So.
Oh yeah, sure. No, there is a lot. This is an interdimensional hotspot, and we used to go out to Salt Spring Island, and our theory was that Salt Spring Island was inside of a huge Atlantean crystal. It was just inside of a crystal.
I got a yes on that. Yeah.
So it's that kind of a thing where we're just looking at all the structural and dimensional ecology things here that we are focusing on. And for example, it's been well known that the Parliament, the BC Parliament, which is on Victoria, that there's been a ship over that. I mean, there's just a lot of dimensional things holding everything in place here.
Right.
Canada is God's country, and it's the second largest landmass after Russia.
Really?
And
Wow.
yeah, and
Wow.
there are only like less than 30,000 people here. I mean, around.
Hmm.
That's amazing. And yet, look,
30
calm,
million. Yeah.
calm, and it's called God's country.
Hmm.
And that's how I feel here. That it is God's country. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, you have right-wing talk show hosts in the United States the last couple of days said, we should invade Canada. It's really, what is that? It's just,
You never know. I mean, the stuff that goes on down here, who knows what Biden
yeah,
will do next? I don't know.
yeah. But
You know,
But uh, so we've been concentrating on having Canada as kind of a peaceful kind of balanced
Mhm.
place. Do you see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And it's
Yeah.
the second largest. And I think Putin allowed himself to be taken over by Dracos.
Mm.
There was a thing. There's a pretty active kind of new age guy whose grandfather supposedly helped found the Soviet Union. And a few years back, I was approached whether or not I wanted to start a weekly radio program with him and a couple of other people.
Is that Arm& Hammer?
No. It's I'm blocking on his name now, but supposedly the first guest on our program was going to be Vladimir Putin. And
Really?
this was, yeah,
Interesting.
this
Yeah.
was about 8 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago. And 8 to 10 years ago, Putin's persona was still somewhat positive, and I think he really allowed himself. I'm so
I,
surprised.
I,
And he was going to be the first guest on our weekly radio program, and something happened, and it just didn't occur. It didn't come together. And in my own mind, I guess I was saved by the bell, but I think the Dracos got to him.
well, I had heard that he actually was, the real one was eliminated and replaced with a clone.
Yeah. Well,
That's
that's
what I
happened.
heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So
Yeah. So maybe what our friend Dr. Courtney Brown has been picking up through the Farsight Institute, it's very interesting. He puts out these videos, and then his whole institute does remote viewing. And maybe what they've picked up is the Dracos around the clone. I don't know.
yeah, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know. You know, you know. And they say Biden actually died. I've heard stories where he died 2 years ago. Others that he died 10 years ago.
At that level, I just don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
And there are these rumors that are put out there. There was a person who was head of Exopolitics Egypt, and he was on the internet about 2 weeks ago putting out a negative rumor that Andy Bishago had died on April 6, 2022, which is false, because I'm in contact with Andy
You know why he
every
did
week.
that?
I'm sorry?
You know why he did that?
Why, who did what?
Why he put out that false rumor about Andy?
Why?
Because that makes people think that he has cancer, and we're powerful spiritual beings. So when people think somebody has cancer, they can create cancer in that individual and eliminate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that individual is working with negative spirits, and
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. You know Kim Gogan?
I don't know her personally, but tell me about her.
Well, I stay away from her because I've been told she's a reptilian shapeshifter. And I'll give you an
Oh,
example. It was about a year and a half ago where she put out a broadcast about a year and a half ago. She put out a broadcast that President Trump had cancer and he was on the way to the hospital, which was totally false. He didn't have cancer, but it made people think that perhaps he did have cancer, and thinking that would have caused him cancer.
I
So
see.
you see, you have the, it's the same effect. It's the same effect. I stay away from her completely. She's shape-shifted.
Very interesting.
But that's what I was told. That was the
Thank
whole
you. Thank you
behind it.
for all of that.
Sure.
I've been very
Yeah.
puzzled by that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. There's an old Beatles song. They talk about mind games. Well, mind games.
Mind games. Ugh.
And it's a battle between of the minds too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, what information do you believe? You know,
Yeah.
and I think what you should do is to always give credence to your heart mind. If it's something that feels right, feels good, feels like it's true, then it's true. But don't necessarily hang everything on your logical mind, which often can be wrong. The logic
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, no. That's very wise.
Yeah. But I know in a couple of years, by the end of this year, a lot of good things will have come aboard. We're going to have challenges this year, but we're going to get through everything. I know that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's a very good feeling.
You know, we just have to remain strong.
Yes.
And you know, I know you've had challenges earlier in your life. And look where you are today, doing the wonderful work that you do, Alfred, in a safe place in North America, which is good, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, my friend, well, we've got a couple of minutes left, and thank you so much for coming on today. And
this is my great privilege and my great pleasure. And to be able to activate your educational and teaching energies, I feel that you're a senior educator, and that you really are going to bring great value to the world.
Thank you.
In a way that people are going to come and they're going to want to really work and work hard and earn certificates and move in a serious way. So
thank you, Alfred, for saying that so much. The purpose of my show is like your work is to raise consciousness and make this world a better place, and I know we're doing it too. And I want to thank you so much for coming on today. Could you give your website out, please, so people could find out more information about all the different things you do?
Yeah. People can go to Omniversity.info, Omniversity.info, and there it's free. You can register there for free. And there you can, that's a learning platform for multidimensional knowledge, and you can enroll there in over 30 courses in exopolitics, exosciences, PsiSciences, and spiritual sciences. And I will be starting as of February 1st a whole series of courses in spiritual sciences that I'm really looking forward to.
Great. Well, that'll be fun. Fun.
And hopefully we've enrolled Ted here today.
Well, absolutely. That's wonderful. I can't wait to start. My friend. I just want to wrap things up by saying Out of This World Radio is a nonprofit, listener-supported show. And if you'd like to contribute, we'd love your help and support. Or ideas for guests are always welcome too. You can go to my BBS website or to www.outofthisworld1150.com. You can also send me an email with suggestions to outofthisworld1150@gmail.com or outofthisworldradio@protonmail.com. I also have a spiritual mentoring program where I teach people how to talk to the other side. I have a series of books available. I've written 2 in English and 1 in German. And you can go to outofthisworldreadings.com to look up that information. I will be going back to Shasta later this year, where we have had many healings in the past. You're welcome to come on the trip. as well as I'll be going to Sedona and Peru later this year, to Machu Picchu. It's a beautiful world we have ahead of us, my friends, and we're all creating it. And I know things are tough in some places around the world, but please know that God has our back, and things will get better. And we just have to just remember that we are all powerful spiritual beings meant to create a much better and happier planet. And we're getting a lot of support. We're getting a lot of support from the benevolent extraterrestrials, from the Pleiadians, from the Galactic Alliance, from the Arcturians, from the Andromedans, from the beautiful people of Sirius B, and they're all here and they're helping us. And I want to thank Alfred. Thank you so much for coming on today, and this has been a lot of fun. I can't wait to have you part of my Galactic Wisdom Conference, which will be on March 18th and 19th. The website is www.outofthisworld. The website is galacticwisdomconference.com. And for more information, just go there, or you can go to outofthisworldreadings.com and click on events or spiritual trips. So the schedule is being finalized this week, so it should be done in a couple days. And I can't wait to see you all there. It'll be by Zoom next. Usually in the past we've had it in person, but we had to have it by Zoom because of a lot of restrictions. But next year we probably will have an in-person conference. But anyway, Alfred, thank you so much for coming on today, my friend. It's been a great show and really enjoyed it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
All right, my friend. And Don and Doug, thank you so much again, as always, for your fantastic help. Really appreciate it.